Hi there, Colin Davis, ShadowTechAlchemy.com, SolutioPodcast.com, MelissaMariMovie.com, MelissaMariMusic.com, and this is what is this? The 15th or the 16th? I don't even know. It's the 16th of June, 2026, and this is the Solutio Alchemy broadcast, weekly broadcast. So today I had a comment by someone in the chat, or on one of my videos, Jessica, I think her name was, who was saying that she was looking for some kind of guidance or input as to how to start her alchemical journey, however she sees that. And so I thought, well, I've done this broadcast before, that subject matter, a couple times before, but it's just I'm gonna have to keep doing it, because really that's one of the things that I'm figuring out here is how to kind of give the same course over and over again and keep it interesting, because this is the stuff. This is the perennial stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and of course I can never get bored of any of it, because it's just so incredible. Being on this path is so incredible. I can't imagine. I mean, you have to be oriented in this way, and most people are not oriented in this way. But if you are oriented in this way, if you are a spiritual seeker, and this is a certain type of spiritual seeker too. I was going to say, if you were oriented in this way, once you get on this path, then what else are you going to do? There's nothing more exciting. There's nothing more fulfilling. There's nothing more incredible than developing yourself, working on yourself, living in the movie of life, so to speak, having alchemical relationships, having relationships with people that are just at the absolute, far end of intimacy and depth, and using relationships as a way to evolve yourself, as a way to get deep into your own psyche and understand yourself and understand the nature of human reality. And having metaphysical experiences and downloads and gnosis, and what could be better than this? I just can't think of anything better than this. I mean, I've done other things that are great too, but this to me is the greatest thing ever. And especially after you've been on this path for a while, and especially if you have really dedicated yourself to this path, then it will have unfolded for you. Then it will have started generating gold for you, and you'll recognize how amazing it is. Now, I was going to say just a minute ago that I went to a get together, because I kind of have my new place around here in Austin, and this particular group were people from what I would call the New Age community. And this community is adjacent to the more therapeutic community, the spiritual community that's more therapeutic. And in the United States, the communities that are more therapeutic, you could say, are, well, there's all kinds of different sects, right? But it seems like in the United States, the people who are more into doing process work and digging into themselves and understanding themselves are often, in this day and age, more aligned with Eastern thinking. People from the yoga community, people who are studying meditation and Eastern psychospiritual practices, This is kind of, I think, that's more common than people who are into, let's say, Gurdjieff or Carl Jung, or there's a lot of other traditions, Theosophy and Rosicrucianism and other kinds of esoteric traditions that are heady, and intellectual, but they're not that therapeutic, that are Western. But in the Western world, it's like we don't have a whole lot of the therapeutic mysticism. We have mainstream, secular psychological therapy, of whatever kind. But the Jungian system is kind of the most developed, most just the most advanced and mature psychospiritual system that can be picked up and understood, that isn't buried under all these rocks and all of this, that has been updated at least to the 20th century, modern, fairly modern, that is on the therapeutic side, that is on the process side, that is from the West. Everything else, you kind of have to go to the East for that. Or you have to go to indigenous shamanism. Now that is another, should have said that is another kind of strain that's coming in, where people are getting into the therapeutic inner work through ayahuasca and psilocybin and other psychedelic therapy. So that is another. So you have the Eastern side, and then you kind of have the Jungian side on the West, and then you have this psychedelic side also. Now the New Age folks, they're not really doing the work, right? So there's a lot of fantasy, there's a lot of projection, there's a lot of what John Wellwood called spiritual bypassing, shadow bypassing. And so that community is similarly to the Christians. In fact, I've often thought that the New Age folks are kind of like just a science fiction version of Christians. And nothing to take away from Christians, but they aren't involved in therapeutic work. They're not getting into their psyches, right? And anything that feels like mysticism or witchcraft or anything like that, they're told to stay away from that. Anything that has to do with the shadow, the Christians are going to run from that. Well, the New Agers are the same. They're going to run from shadow stuff. Now, people could have come into this therapeutic side, this alchemical side, through the New Age community, but as they get deeper and deeper into this, they're going to realize that a lot of that other stuff was projections and fantasies, and they're going to have to come down to earth. So, but it's been becoming very clear to me that the different kinds of strains of spirituality in the Western world, and where the alchemical path is, which is synonymous with the Jungian path. When we talk about the alchemical path, where you're transmuting shadow material, the only other, really well-developed system that does that, that's the Jungian system. So when we say alchemy, I'm an inner alchemist. I'm doing inner alchemy, or esoteric alchemy, or spiritual alchemy. We're talking about the practices, the philosophy, the systems, the understanding of Carl Jung and the Jungian school. That's really, and now once you kind of have that as your base, you can go wherever you want to with it. You can bring in Eastern stuff into it. You can do whatever you want. You can make your own alchemical laboratory, and you should do that. But if you're doing the shadow work stuff, you're definitely, right up next to Carl Jung, and you pretty much kind of obligated to at least get a basic understanding of what his system is. It would be like trying to get into, nuclear physics or whatever and avoiding Einstein. You can't do it. So that's that. But I think also we're going to have Dana call in a little while, so that'll be good. But let me give a talk now on kind of like how to start on this path and everything. And the first thing I want to kind of say about that is that there's no rush. There's just no rush, and it's just the main thing is to just, you're following your intuition on this. You're following the breadcrumbs. You're going down the rabbit hole in this area, right? You're researching Jungian psychology and alchemy and shadow work and internal family systems work and trauma therapy. You're going down that rabbit hole. And you're watching this video and that video, reading this book and that book, and you're just cruising. You're just on the path. And you don't have to, there's nothing, it's not like you're getting a degree in it or anything like that. You're just on the path, and there's no rush, and everything is unfolding in the timeline that it's supposed to, and everything is happening for you in alignment with where you are at the time, what you're capable of, and it's all working out the way it's supposed to. So there's no rush on any of this stuff. At the same time, though, you can certainly waste a lot of time that you probably shouldn't waste on social media or just messing around with the stupid cultural space. The idiocracy cultural space that we have in the West, and especially in America. And that can just be a complete distraction, total distraction. And so there's only so much of that social media stuff or scrolling or whatever we call it that you want to be involved in, because whether you need reading time, or you need to be listening to lectures, or you need to be going for nature walks and analyzing yourself, or just having quiet time or meditating or whatever it is that you're doing, and all the stuff that is developing you is not found online. Well, that's not true. A lot of information can be accessed online, but a lot of that, but it's not really to be found on social media. And not to say that we shouldn't have any social media time, or that we shouldn't have any social media, presence at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that can be a huge waste of time, and so we definitely want to keep that to a minimum. So now I got a bunch of notes for today, and I'll kind of skip around these things, but I wrote the patient or the alchemist. Are you a patient who needs counseling and guidance, or an alchemist in training? You can still get guidance from other people if you're an alchemist in training. You're in training, but it's a perspective, because most people won't take full responsibility for their own development, for their own health, for their own advancement, for their own healing. They won't do that. They will always rely on a doctor, on a guru, on a system, something like that out there. And then they will kind of just skip from one to the next. Because although you can't say that you can't, we need outside people. I need outside people. We all need outside people. We all need input. We all need assistance from other people, because we just can't. We have so many blind spots. and we need challenges from other people. So, but at the same time, we have to take 100% responsibility, like Melissa used to say, 100% responsibility for everything that comes to you and through you. Move towards the direction of taking 100% responsibility for everything that goes through you. That's your psychology, that's your emotional state, that's your thoughts, your feelings, and everything that comes to you. Everything that actually comes to you in this world is somehow resonating with you. Either resonating with your big S self, your capital S self, your God image within in Jungian psychology, or resonating with aspects of your shadow. And so when things come into your life, those are partly due to your own resonance. And so you need to start to move in the direction of taking responsibility for what comes to you, as well as what goes through you. Now, most people are not taking responsibility for what comes to them, and they're also not taking responsibility for what goes through them, for what originates inside themselves even. And so these are not alchemists, and that's okay. They don't need to be. And I kind of just accept the state of the world is where it is. I like to use the Hindu understanding of the Yuga cycle and the 26,000 year Yuga cycle or whatever. And we just kind of came out of the Kali Yuga. And we got a long ways to go before we get to the whatever, Satya Yuga or whatever it's called, the highest one. So everything's okay. The world is okay as it is. There's not a whole lot of alchemists. That's okay. It's a slow build. It's a slow build over centuries. And so we got to do our thing, and we got to find other people who are on this path who are like us that we can support each other, and we can just let everybody else do what they're doing. And if they get to a point where they can recognize that you may have something for them, well, then you can give them a dose, right? You can give them a dose, and that's great, and you should do that. And you should be on the lookout for anybody that you can help. And if you have to kind of come down to their level, fine. Yeah, anybody that you can help, that you can guide, that's your duty. You have to do that. But you shouldn't expect that you should just be able to, you have to handle the reality that there's not that many of us true alchemists. And so you just got to find the other alchemists. And there's also a lot of alchemists who don't know they're alchemists yet, and they will wake up to that within the next 10, 20, 30 years. And you may be talking to people who are completely on the path, maybe very advanced people who just are not at that place in life yet. For some people, it's like I talked to this one woman recently who I think is a true alchemist, and she's only 26 years old. And she's having a hard time. There's a lot of stuff going on. So that's kind of where it happens for a lot of people, is they get started through difficulty, through trauma, through fracturing. And then that's the impetus to work on yourself and to develop. Other people, they're not gonna wake up until they're in their 40s or 50s or something, after they've raised a family and all of that kind of stuff. And then they're like, I got to really go on a spiritual path here. I got to go back into myself and uncover a bunch of this junk. So people are on different timelines, and you don't know who you're talking to and where they are on the timeline. But in general, it's going to be a small minority of people, and we have to accept that. But our job is to find the others and to support each other and all of that. So right. Okay, now let's keep going. Yeah, are you a patient who needs counseling and guidance, or an alchemist in training? Your behavior determines which one. That says it all. Your behavior determines which one. okay, what I wrote here, because I'm very heady, kind of left-brainy kind of person, naturally, kind of by default. But as I've gotten older, and especially through the relationship I had with Melissa, and from input from masters and mentors like C. Michael Smith, I've recognized that ultimately this is, even though you won't hear this explicitly said very much in the Jungian school, this is a heart path. The alchemical path, it's alluded to, it's in the, it's the conjunctio, the alchemical wedding and all of that. It's the philosopher's stone, it's the grail. It's all alluded to that it's a heart path, but it's a kind of often shrouded in terminology and symbols and stuff that you're like, if someone had just said this is a heart path, that would kind of have cleared a lot up. And it is, because ultimately all this is about the reason why you're cleaning up all this stuff, the reason why you're doing the shadow work, why you're breaking this stuff up, why you're burning it up, why you're doing it is so that you can get better flow, more access to your, you could say in the Eastern system, to your higher chakras. Whether you believe in that or not doesn't matter, but definitely your heart chakra, or however you want to put it. And so, if it wasn't for Melissa and me learning how to really psycho-spiritually, energetically bond with her, right? To bond with this mystic woman, and to really, empathically bond with her, then I would be in a much different situation. Because being able to do that kind of it's kind of like a tether that I was able to kind of tap, hook onto. And then so the 12 years of life with her, and all the processing and all the shadow work and the complex work and the conflict work and all the stuff that we did, all the downloading and all of that. Plus then when she passed away, just the massive amount of grief, which is still there, still processing. And I process another little chunk every single day. All that's heart-opening stuff. That's all heart work. And it was actually, I was when Melissa was in her final hours, I was in the hospice. Really in the last few minutes of Melissa's life, like the last 10 minutes of her life, I was in the hallway talking to Mikal, C. Michael Smith. And he made it clear, he said, and I hadn't, the way he said it, I hadn't really had it put this way or really realized it this deeply, that you have to have your heart broken. You have to lose people and have your heart broken on the heart path. Because you have to have it cracked open, and then you have to put it back together again. And then that makes you more resilient, but also deeper. That deepens your emotional and empathic capacity. And you just can't get that. Probably there are some people that can, that are kind of born with these higher capacities. That's for sure the case. And I guess you could get it through certain kinds of, like you see the monks and the Buddhist monks and stuff. I guess you could probably get it through different ways. But it seems like when you're just living the normal life, when you're just in the world, you're going to lose people. You're going to lose people. You're going to suffer loss. You're going to suffer trauma. And you need to have, that has to happen so you can crack open and then you can reform yourself. It's just like a muscle. Like when you work out and you break the muscle fiber down and then it rebuilds itself back stronger. So that's what's happening on the heart path. And there's a whole lot more that I can say about the heart path and about that in the context of relationship and certain shadow work practices that open up your compassion. But if you just know that this is a heart path and that ultimately your one of your biggest aims here is to get this thing more open, to get it healed, and to get all the protective stuff out of the, pulled off, the scar tissue, so to speak. Get the scar tissue out of the way, and so you can have this resilient but flexible and very sensitive heart. It's really like one of the biggest aspects of this work. So, research. Talking about research. This is magician work. If you look at Robert Moore's system, the 4 archetypes, when you get to the magician, he talks about how the magician can either be like a black magician, like a manipulator magician. The magician is the cognitive function. It's the thinking, problem-solving function in the psyche. And a shadow version of it is using your ability to understand things to manipulate people. And then, but another shadow function of it, because that one never really felt like that one never clicked for me. But another shadow function of that, obviously in his system, the opposite side of it is what he calls the dummy. The dummy is the magician, the person who just can't, they just can't figure it out. They just can't figure it out. They're just like, I don't know how that works. Can you figure that out for me? It's like, I can't believe how many people can't do a proper web search. They don't know how to choose keywords for their web search. And it's like, even if you don't even know how to do a proper web search, all you have to do is type in, how do I do a proper web search? And somebody will have an article or some AI will come back and tell you. So it's like doing research is easier than ever now. And you still see people constantly, even on threads, Jungian or other, spiritual threads of people that are investigating intelligent things, where somebody's like, where do I find that? How do I find that? You just put the name of it into a search engine and you'll find it, and scroll down until you find what you want. And it's like, wow. So that's the dummy. That's the person whose magician is not turned on. And another aspect of the shadow magician is the person who's just completely sucked into research. They're just completely, their life is just taken over with research, studying and taking in more information and more information and more information. It's another shadow version that I don't know if Robert Moore, it kind of like his his bipolar shadow is very helpful, but I don't think it's complete. It's like the deeper I get into all this over the years, the more I kind of see, that's a little, that needs some adjustment, and that's fine. But so the workaholic, that's just, that's kind of a warrior function. It's like a warrior magician. That's probably where it comes from. It's a mix, because the warrior is extremely focused and target oriented. So you get that warrior magician. That's probably how you explain it. And it's just constant study. But you can't go into that either. You have to have a lot of quiet time and time just to let things gel. I mean, I'm an artist, and Melissa was an artist, and we know all about that. You can't just be shoved into information all day long, just reading and studying and researching and stuff. You can only do so much of that. It has to be done in chunks. And then you need to back off and let the unconscious process. Because when you're doing this work, you're depending to a great deal on your intuition. And you're not just, this is not, you need to get information from the outside world, but this is not about accumulating information, right? This is about figuring out what you need to figure out for your life art, for your process, right? This is not about becoming a scholar of alchemy or a scholar of esoteric sciences or whatever. There are people, and that's their job. That's what they're supposed to be doing. But they're generally not alchemists themselves. They're not doing the process work. They're studying all kinds of stuff, and they know all this so they can teach it. We need those people. But the people who are doing it, we need a lot of time, a break from all that research. So on one hand, you have to know how to research. You have to research. You have to read. You've got to listen to lectures and all of that stuff. But at the same time, you can only do so much of that. In fact, you shouldn't even do that much of it. You should have probably more time spent listening to nothing than you do listening to that stuff or reading that stuff. And so that slows you down too. The fact that the healthiest way to go is actually to continue to research and continue to read and study and listen and absorb, but doing it in a very measured way. Because you need your process time, you need your intuition time, you need time for the unconscious to catch up. So I'm getting a text right now at the same time. Okay, so research is where I'm at. So I wrote, just go down the Jungian rabbit hole. Go down the Jungian rabbit hole. And again, no rush, but go down the Jungian rabbit hole. And so, what I've done is in the description to this video, I've put a link to an article on my website that I'm going to be continually updating. And it is the shadow work reading and video list. And I just started populating that article with links and people's names and names of books that I think that are good for beginner and intermediate practitioners. So just look in the YouTube description. It's the top line. It's a link to my article. And you can just kind of, if you want to, you can check back with that and see how I keep updating it. But even right now, there's enough material on there to just open the whole thing up and just, get the whole thing opened. So you'll be able to just go down there. There's like a list of like 15 or 20 names and I don't know, like 40 other references or something and some videos. and some YouTube channels. So that'll get you going. And I would say though, and I always give this advice, the first book that I read is the first book I recommend other people read on Jungian psychology, or what we're calling alchemy. And that is Robert Johnson's book, Owning Your Own Shadow. And Robert Johnson's books are a very, very good way to get an education in Jungian psychology because they're small. They're usually 100 pages or less, maybe 100, 120. They're short books, big text. They're not, and they're written in layperson's language. And so they're easy to consume, but they're still very deep. And Robert Johnson is a master. And he has a book about every kind of corner of the practice, of the art, of the system. And so there's also a book called He that's about male psychology, and there's a book called She that's about female psychology. And like a traditional Jungian, Robert Johnson uses a lot of mythology. This is one of the areas where I'm not as strong. I really appreciate the classical or traditional Jungians who really use mythology to understand the psyche. It's essential. But at the same time, I'm not naturally oriented that way. I'm more oriented structurally, like Robert Moore was. And but I would highly recommend Robert Johnson and his books. And so you just, go look at them. There's like 20 of them. And if I had to basically, teach a class, right? Have my own Jungian school, I could teach the whole thing out of just all 20 of Robert Johnson's books. So that's pretty cool to have Johnson as, as on your, to be able to learn from, because a lot of Jungians that are out there that are famous and stuff are very complicated and highly intellectual, and they'll probably be flying over your head. So it's nice to get started with somebody that's down, down at your level. Then from there, go into Robert L. Moore. And I have a link on that reading list to a channel, Neo-Jungian Structural Psychology or something like that, that has a ton of Robert Moore lectures on it. I've got all of Robert Moore's lectures in my own library, but look at that YouTube channel. It's got most of everything on there, and just start listening to Robert Moore. And even though he's known for male psychology, he's not a male psychologist. That's just kind of, he went in that direction temporarily, and then this kind of what's called the mythopoetic men's movement kind of pulled him in, and he wrote 5 books about male psychology. But that's not all his work at all, and he lectures to men and women, and he will always pretty much just say, if you're listening to a lecture that's about male psychology, well, sure, that's what you're gonna hear. But other than that, he's talking about the psyche in general, and men and women are listening to him. And he's just tremendous. Robert Moore is my favorite, most inspirational Jungian for me. And so I'd say go into him, start listening to Robert Moore. You can go back. There's a lot of Marie-Louise von Franz interviews and material online on YouTube and places. And she was one of Jung's colleagues. So she was there with Carl Jung. And she understands Jung as well as anybody because she was right there with him. Was one of his top researchers. So look into Marie-Louise von Franz, and it's a woman. It's great. Marion Woodman. Addiction to Perfection is like one of her biggest biggest books, and she's a woman, a female Jungian, and is generally talking to a great degree about female psychology, the female psyche. And her book, the movie that was made about her with Andrew Harvey called Dancing in the Flames, you can find that. Tremendous, you should see that. Who else do I have? Oh, James Hillman. So James Hillman his school of Jungian psychology is called archetypal psychology, and there's some core differences with classical Jungian psychology, but don't let that bother you. That won't matter until you get way deep into it. And he's very inspirational also. He's a great lecturer. There's a lot of James Hillman on YouTube. And there's a lot of Jungians who are getting their education at the Pacifica Institute in Santa Barbara. And he was sort of the, I don't know what they call him, what his position was with them, but he was part of the founding of that, I believe, and they're Hillmanites over there. Michael Mead. Now, don't look at the politics of these people. Don't look at the politics of these people. Maybe you'll be okay with it, but I mean, I'm kind of like this red pill kind of person, and Melissa was, and a lot of people who are coming into inner work and all of that were Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Z, starting to be Gen Z. And so we've already kind of been initiated into the shadow side of politics, and we know it's all a big fake game and all of that. And a lot of the boomers, all the living Jungians, are either boomers or recently passed away, silent generation, or the generation before that, the greatest generation, we call it. And they're in another world politically. And Jungians, like all the academics, tend to be left of center people, which is fine. I've got a lot of political beliefs that are left of center. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. But they just, they're still falling for the fake stuff. So anyway, Murray Stein. Murray Stein is alive. He's a master. He knows the system, the Jungian system, extremely well, and he's one of the top guys that's still alive. He's out there giving interviews. Even there was one I just saw with him on Jeffrey Mishlove about the shadow and evil. Actually, go look that one up. Murray Stein. I got to put that on my reading list. He's got a book called Jung on Evil, which is very good. And he just did an interview on New Thinking Aloud. Subscribe to New Thinking Aloud. Let me put this in. So we have this. New Thinking Aloud. Stein video. Yeah. So go find that. And so you can listen to Murray Stein. He'll get you going too. And like I said, look on the reading list that's linked on the description for this YouTube. And I also have Edward Edinger in there, and I can go on and on. So it doesn't really matter where you go down the rabbit hole, where you get into this. These rabbit holes kind of connect. And like I said, there's no rush. Just really, this stuff is just so deep. The Jungian material by the great Jungians is so deep and so medicinal. It's like drinking ayahuasca or something. It's so deep and so rich and so medicinal and so multi-layered. It's like it takes time to go through this. And so there's no rush on that. Just kind of find the people that you resonate with, get their books, and then I want to tell you something else that's really important. about the research as you're going into this, as you're getting your Jungian education, just organically, and by looking at these resources and stuff. Start using, like I was talking about earlier about doing proper web searches. Start using an AI program like ChatGPT or Claude. I use both ChatGPT, Claude, and I use Grok, right? I pay for Claude $20 a month, and then I use the free version of ChatGPT, and I also pay for Grok too. But that doesn't matter. You have to pay to get Grok, but Grok is not as good as either of the other two. And use these AI programs to do research for you. Say, I want to know about Robert Moore, his 4 archetypes with the bipolar shadow system. Explain that to me, and just talk to the AI program. Realize that you're talking to a program that has scanned the internet for information and has done so in a way that's, could be, the thing is not built to give you your education in the subject you're interested in. So it's not going to have the kind of depth that Murray Stein is going to have. And it's going to make mistakes. These AI programs, I work with them, and they make mistakes constantly. They're constantly like, give you stuff that's wrong. But the thing is that you won't really notice that the AI program's giving you something that's a little bit off base or whatever until you get way deep into the science of this. Like, I've been working on a paper that is about the kind of 2 sides of the shadow, you could say, which is you have the structural shadow, the ego-based shadow, the classical, Jungian shadow, and then you have the pathology that comes from dysregulated complexes. And these 2 areas are totally intertwined and not very well defined in the literature. And so I was, using, first of all, I'm reading, but then I'm using AI, and I'm also asking AI to read books for me, or I'm sending it chapters out of books and saying, read this, let's talk about this. And I had to work with some of these programs for a long time, over a couple months, to really kind of pull apart to really kind of figure some of this stuff out. And I'm watching these programs make mistakes left and right. But what I'm figuring out is at the, it's kind of like at the PhD level of this. You're not going to have that problem. So you can use these programs and to give you a basic education in these ideas. Like you can hear, in Jungian psychology, you have these basic ideas. You have the personal unconscious, the collective unconscious, which contains archetypes. You have the capital S self, the big S self, the great self within, whatever we call it, the imago Dei. You've got complexes, pathological and healthy complexes, and you've got synchronicity and blah, blah, blah. You got all these different concepts. Well, you can go to ChatGPT or Claude and say, let's talk about this. I need an education in this subject. And talk to it and get feedback from it and say, I don't understand that. Can you explain that better? And it will. Use these AI programs that are free even as a teacher's assistant, as an assistant. And to find stuff. Hey, I'm looking for something. And help me find this. So this is really important now, is to use these AI programs as research assistants, and to help you on your path. So let me say hi to the folks in the chat. Hi everybody, and hello and cheers, and absolutely Murray Stein is the bee's knees. Murray Stein's One of the best living Jungians. What's his generation? I guess he's probably baby boomer, silent generation. He's probably about 80. And so I guess he's an older boomer. But yeah, a lot of the greats have died. So, okay. So use AI for research. Don't use research. Don't think it's telling you everything exactly, but for basic research and for basic education, use it. Use it. Sign up for some AI program and just start using it. That's good. Now, that will really help, actually. I mean, it's so helpful. Okay. Talk to your AI program about internal family systems. This is another thing. Internal family systems is an overlay that goes on top of Jungian psychology. Richard Schwartz is the founder. You can read his book, Introduction to Internal Family Systems, or look at videos with him. And he generally keeps it real simple, usually, when he does podcasts and stuff. So he's real easy to listen to. Grab a book or two on internal family systems, and then talk to one of your AI programs about it. What is this? How does it work? What are the parts? What's an exile? What's a protector? What's a manager? What are these things? And then talk to it and do IFS with your program, with your AI program on yourself, right? Practice with the program, like use it as your therapist. That's not as good as a real good therapist, but it'll get you, into it. So, internal family systems is another model that a lot of people could use. A lot of people can use internal family systems without Jungian psychology. It's not as deep, it doesn't take you all the places, but as a therapeutic system, it'll get a lot done that is not even really available in Jungian psychology. So I think it's like C. Michael Smith, he does this. He's a PhD Jungian, and he takes IFS and puts it right on top of it. It works really good for him. And then he takes indigenous shamanism and sandwiches that in there. So he's got it all going. But what else? Okay. What else we're going to say? 854. On the work. Okay, I'm designing a workshop. I'm going to give a workshop in Austin in 4 weeks, a little less than 4 weeks. And so I'm putting together a lot of this stuff and a lot of shadow work practices and completing some papers and stuff before that. So this is all on my mind. And so I can go on and on about all this stuff. But right now I'm just gonna, okay. I got a section called The Work. Keep a journal. Keep a journal. Keep a journal. You can keep one journal. You can write it down. I mean, people will naturally suggest. No, people will rightfully suggest that you journal by hand. That's better for your system to do that. It's better for integration to do that. Some people have terrible handwriting like me, and writing by hand is, I can do it as a therapeutic practice, but not as an official journal, keeping track of where I was at. So I do it in Apple Notes, or on Evernote was the system I use. Now I just use Apple Notes. But I have a separate journal and a dream journal. I also record my dreams on my phone, an Apple phone, on the Voice Memos app. And so I wake up in the middle of the night. I have dreams in the middle of the night. I wake up in the middle of the night. I grab my phone. I hit record on there. I talk into it. And then I name the file and put the phone down and go back to sleep. And I start the file name with the word dream. I say dream, and then I put some other words. And if I'm too tired to do that, I'll just do it in the morning. but I name all my audio files, because then I can back up my material, I can put it onto a hard drive, and I can organize everything by name, and all the dreams will be in one chunk because they all start with the word dream. And then they'll all be in order. I can order them by the date they were created. Then I can feed those, if I want to, into an AI program, and I can have them transcribed into text. Now, right now, I have to do that one at a time, and I do that in Evernote. I drop them into a file and then transcribe it that way. But soon, if not already, I'll be able to do that on it with an AI program, and I'll just be able to feed it all of my voice memos, and it'll just crunch it, and it'll turn them all into transcripts. So that's another way that I record my dreams, and journaling is just through the phone, just recording my voice. I make sure it's very clear. But the writing down is actually, as you know, it's another way of integrating, of processing. So you're not just keeping track of this information and where you were at what time, but you are actually integrating material. It's actual shadow work. Writing down your dreams, writing down your, situations in life, shadow-related situations in life, writing them down is actual shadow work. It actually processes, bringing into consciousness shadow material. And it keeps track of where you were at. And so you can look back later, or you'll be able to feed it into an AI program and say, let's do something with this. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. So that's a must. This is like, I talk to people who are still not keeping a dream journal or a dream journal at all. And they're, talking about how they're working on themselves and stuff. I'm like, this is number one. You have to do that. There's no way out of that. Now, you don't have to journal everything every day. You don't. But the important stuff that matters, when that comes up, that needs to make it into some kind of a format. I'll break this up by talking to the chat and talking and reading from my notes. Okay, has C. Michael Smith done any new content in the last year or so? He was on New Thinking Aloud, I think, with Leanne, who's was a good program, who's Jeffrey Mishlov's assistant or co-host. And so he was on New Thinking Aloud YouTube channel. Dana has boxes of notebooks of journals. Exactly. Okay, great. Good to hear. You've done that since grade school. Excellent. Good. Okay, that's good. Got that taken care of. Okay. Self-reflection and shadow awareness protocols. I'm going to kind of go through the list right now, because I was just going to talk for about an hour, and then I was going to call Dana. Maybe I'll call you, and maybe I'll call you, Dana, in it's 9, in like 20 minutes, something like that. So, okay. The most basic form of shadow work, besides journaling and dream journaling and all that, is just recognizing that the human being naturally resists and distracts away from shadow material. A good deal of shadow material you don't even know you have, but the stuff that's poking up, we distract away from, we resist, we push it back, we repress it. And of course we project it onto other people. But but when you're in this school, what you're doing is you are consciously saying, I'm going to actually take an accounting of everything that comes up that's negative, that's shadowy, that's scary, that's self-deprecating or or in some way disgusting or whatever it is about me or about the world, whatever it is that shows up in your mind or in your body that you would rather not approach, that's the stuff that you say, I'm actually going to approach that. I'm going to look at that thought. I'm going to follow that feeling down to where it goes. I'm going to follow that memory back to that occurrence that happened that's very uncomfortable. So you're basically volunteering to take yucky medicine. And you just take a little bit at a time, and then you form a tolerance for it. And you also start writing down the types of material that show up. Because even though you may have 1,000 different thoughts that are yucky in a certain period of time, they all are going to kind of fit into a handful of categories. You don't have that many categories of shadow work. You have 1,000 yucky thoughts, but you don't have 1,000 categories of shadow. Not shadow work, shadow. And so you kind of just have to start looking at this stuff. It's like looking in your garden for weeds. And be like, oh, okay, I got to pull that one up. I got to pull that one up. So this is a conscious choice to look at, to pull up, to trace down, to contemplate anything that shows up in your psyche that's negative or scary or in some way disgusts you or is in some way negative or shadowy to you. Whether it's from the past or whether it's in the present, whatever it is, you basically say, I'm going to start cataloging that material. So that's the basic first level of doing this, besides the journaling, is just the conscious decision to start looking at your stuff, your junk. And you'll get, you'll keep kind of coming back around to it and coming back around to it and kind of figuring out, well, where does this come from? Do my parents do this? Yeah, actually my dad does this. Actually my mom is like this, whatever. Oh, okay, I got it from them, blah, blah, blah. And tracing it back and just becoming acquainted with it. Just becoming acquainted with your shadow material, the stuff that pokes up. That's the stuff right on top, the stuff that kind of comes through the course of life. Or when you have a conflict with somebody, you find yourself triggered by something. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So, and then like I said, you're documenting about it, you're journaling about it, you're communicating it to other people. Find people that you can talk to about the stuff that comes up, about the shadow material that comes up, that you can actually talk to about it. Your partner, your best friend, somebody, your therapist, your counselor, somebody. It needs to be somebody, or some people just put it online. Some people are very good at just dumping their shadow stuff onto, Facebook posts or whatever, and then getting feedback. That's not as good as working with a real person, but it's better than nothing. So communicating that which you're pulling up, that puts it in your persona. Because the whole reason why you have shadow material in the first place is because you don't want it in your persona. You don't want to show it to other people. So when you get to the point where you first have come to terms with it yourself, and then you go to the next level of actually putting it in your persona, showing other people that this is part of me, you've made huge progress that way. This stuff starts to lighten up. It starts to lose its heaviness when you get it into your persona. And I'm going to write something down. Making art out of it. This Jungians always did this. Make art, any kind of art, even if don't consider yourself an artist or be that skilled in that way. You can do finger painting. Anybody can do some kind of art and then make art out of your shadow material. So that's another thing to do. This is all processing it. It's all integrating it. It's moving it into consciousness. It's moving it into your persona. It's moving it out. Working with dreams, mirroring, and synchronicities. So here we are. So here, this is its own direction. Working with dreams, it's like when you start to read the Jungians and they talk a lot about mythology. They're talking about the myths are kind of like collective dreams in the Jungian system. It's like when a billion people have dreamed certain motifs, they're now in the collective consciousness, or the collective consciousness of mankind that has been developing for hundreds of thousands of years is now in everybody else's individual consciousness, and so you will output collective stuff. So it's like, I call it the culture mind. The culture and the mind are one ecosystem. But so when you read the Jungian material and they talk about mythology and analyzing myths and analyzing the symbolic frameworks of myths, it's the same world as dream interpretation. And so basically to interpret your dreams, you need to develop some kind of symbolic literacy. And so that's just going to come from reading the Jungians, because they're the ones who are really into the symbolism the most. You can go to Joseph Campbell, and he's a Jungian, and you can get a lot of that from him. And of course, he's the famous, comparative mythologist. And so, but that's, you're gonna, or people that study tarot and astrology, they're working with this kind of symbolism too. And of course, you just do your research, talk to your AI or whatever, and start getting a feeling for what these symbolic motifs are, collective symbolic motifs. And so when they show up in your dreams, you can understand them. And I'm gonna write something down. When the shadow shows up in your dreams, the shadow or complexes can show up in your dreams as sort of nasty characters. Nasty characters, you can get all kinds of dark, nasty characters that are very aggressive or sexually pathological or whatever, in all kinds of shadow manifestations in dreams, where when you get some figure that's clearly like a shadow figure, a demon, devil, succubus, some kind of shadow figure, that's shadow material. I'm not going to talk right now about like all the interpreting symbols and all of that, but that's a big part of this work. And some people are more into that, some people are less into that. A lot of Jungians are really into dreams and dream interpretations and mythology, and that's all they're really about, and they don't really talk about the shadow that much. I talk about the shadow 24/7, and I don't talk about the dreams and the mythology as much. A little bit, but not as much. Mirroring and synchronicities, working with mirroring. Now, mirroring, what I mean by it in that context, there's mirroring of mirroring other people, seeing the gold in other people and showing it back to them. We must do that to each other, mirroring other people. You're amazing, and tell me about yourself, and then mirroring it back to them and showing them their own genius, their own gold, their own brilliance. It's very important. But that's not what I mean here. What I mean is the mirroring of your own psyche in the external world. When something in the external world, through a person or through an occurrence, shows up to show you something about yourself, mirrors some part of you, And in fact, once you get kind of deep into this, you'll realize that all these important people and important occurrences that are going on in your life, in your movie of life, Melissa and I called it, are reflections of aspects of you that you are still getting to know. Not everything that's in the outside world is a direct reflection of you, but everything that has meaning, has consequence and meaning, and is charged for you, then that is reflecting something deep within you that you need to get in touch with. And that outside mirror, that outside projection is showing you that. And so you can reflect on that outside occurrence or that person or that trait in that person, and you can reflect on it and go, what is that in me? How is that symbolic for something that's going on in me? And synchronicities, it's the same thing, right? When you have a combination of inputs that shouldn't come together logically, but they do, that's a focal point, and you should look at that and recognize that that is the external psyche, or the objective psyche is what Jung called it, giving you information about yourself and your situation and what's going on inside of you. So you're living in the movie, Melissa and I called it. So that's a big part of this. And working with chronic behaviors and complexes, right? And that is, your complexes are, like I was talking about earlier, are kind of a side. You got the structural shadow. You know, you repress everything that you can't stand to see about yourself, or that you don't want to show to others, that's primal or wounded or shameful. You repress that into the unconscious. That's the structural shadow. And then you have complexes, and complexes are just the organs of the psyche, but they can be fractured by personal and intergenerational trauma. And that's where IFS comes in, and it kind of describes your different parts, the parts of your complexes that have been broken up. And so you have different parts of you that are kind of, one wants to go in this direction, one wants this direction. One's afraid of something, and the other one's wanting to embrace it. And you have different parts with different agendas. And so you're working with them, and some of them are hurt and wounded, and they have their way of coping is very animalistic or childish. And so this is where you're getting triggered, and these parts are getting active, especially in relationship, and more devolved or primitive parts of you are coming in and taking you over, and your consciousness is being taken over by some kind of chronic complex. And then when you get in a relationship, you trigger each other. And so you want to have, this is why IFS comes in, and you want to have some kind of names for your parts and try to understand what these parts are. And this is a whole conversation about IFS and complex work that we won't do today, but that you're doing a lot of that in this system too. Emotional processing, which is me and Melissa's term for what John Ruskin described in his book, Emotional Clearing, where you basically accept all emotions as they show up in your psyche, when they show up, as you're triggered, as things happen in life, as these chronic complexes cycle, and you have a whole bunch of emotional material that needs to come out. Rather than letting a complex displace it and turn it into all kinds of destruction, you sit there and you process the energy. And I've described that. There's multiple videos of that on this channel, and especially the live tab where a lot of the old shows are. But it's in both of my books, Transforming Darkness, which is free on the website, shadowtechalchemy.com, and then the Shadow Tech, the original book with me and Melissa. It's in there too. Emotional processing. I think it's all over my work. So that's big. In fact, that's almost, I'm not going to talk about it today, but that's almost, could almost just teach that alone. And then I've got in the list psychedelic therapy. And you know, that's not in the Jungian system, and it's getting popular again. People are using it again, and there's all kinds of pitfalls with that. But it is a way, whether it's ayahuasca or ibogaine, which I have not used, or psilocybin, even marijuana, cannabis, they're all, and others. I've used the different forms of DMT to, psychedelics give you access to shadow material, and then you have to process it afterwards. But they can give you access to not just shadow material, obviously, all kinds of gold and all kinds of mysterious stuff. But they are obviously a system, or a method of doing this. So, okay, I'm going to call Dana in a couple minutes here. The last couple things on my list involve, because I'm giving you a lot of stuff, because I don't know if anybody knows that I said it at the beginning when I started the show, that I said I was going to do this show on, it's in the title, it's Beginning the Inner Alchemy Path. So I'm kind of giving you kind of dumping a bunch of stuff on you, but you can take whatever you want to. And so we've talked about personal shadow work. We've talked a little bit about relational shadow work. I haven't gotten too deep into that tonight. When you're working on your body, this is shadow work too. This is the 4 quadrant system I always talk about. The personal mind, relationships and culture, body and behavior, and the institutional systems that we plug into, the matrix. All those are domains where you have to apply shadow awareness and do shadow work in all those domains. The traditional Jungian system deals with 1 or 2 of those. But the way I'm doing it deals with the whole thing, holistically. So the shadow work in the body is, diet, exercise, super clean eating, and somatic work of all kinds, somatic therapy of all kinds, somatic meditation, and I talk about open focus meditation, or breathing, or whatever you're doing. And then also understanding that the psyche dumps shadow into the body. And so a lot of our chronic illness, our symptoms, our physical sensitivities and allergies, and all this junk is personal and intergenerational shadow and complex pathology that's getting dumped into the body. And the guy to look at for that, even though he doesn't describe it in a Jungian way or anything like that, his psychological modeling is very primitive, but his physical, or his understanding of the psychosomatic nature of illness and symptoms, the guy to look at is John Sarno, The Divided Mind, that book. That's very important on this path, to get to that point to where you recognize that a lot of your physical stuff is psychic stuff. So now, and then the last quadrant is the lifestyle quadrant, is how you plug into the world. Where you're working, are you pulling your hair out to running around in the rat race to pay the mortgage and all the different bills and all the matrix stuff? Or are you able to live a very clean, simple, austere life so that you can have time and space to work on yourself and develop yourself spiritually, right? There's no need to get all fully plugged in with all that stuff and be a wage slave and have all that debt on your back and all that stuff. When you're on this path, this supersedes all that stuff, all that material stuff. And then, where you're working, who are you working for? What about your own business? Where is shadow or parasitism, you could say, in your life, in your business practices, in the people you're working for, or your clients and how you're serving your clients. And where is shadow? Where are things not transparent? Where are things parasitic? You know, who are you banking with? Where are you shopping? All that kind of stuff. All that. That's all how you plug into the system. Where are you living? Do you have nature time? All that kind of stuff. That's in the lower right-hand quadrant. That's shadow work too. Do you have what's your ritual space like? Do you have a sacred space for yourself and all of that? So, which reminds me, I gotta write something down now. So that is, I think, just fine for an introduction to this, beginning the inner alchemy path. I think everything there's enough material on there to completely go down the rabbit hole and to get started. And then, like I said, there's that reading list that's in the YouTube description to this video that's got a whole bunch of material. And you're off. You're good to go. Okay, so let's call Dana. Let's call Dana. She's been hanging out. Yeah, and so she's been hanging out with us for, I don't know how long she's been around, hanging out for a month or more. Don't recommend discussing synchronicity with ChatGPT, she says. Okay, your mileage may vary. Your mileage may vary with, when you start, try Claude. He's got a free program too. Try these other ones. They're not, I don't know what all the other ones are. Do a web search and find out what are all the free AI programs that are out there. You can also run them on your own computer, but that's more technical. Okay, Dana, are you ready? I'm going to call you, and I think I have everything set up here. So let's do that. I'm calling. Oh, wait. Sorry. Wait, Dana, sorry. Hold on. I don't have the cord plugged in. Hold on a second. Let me plug it in. I'll call you right back. Just a minute, we'll do this. I haven't used the system in a while. Okay. I got it plugged in now. Okay. All right, I'm gonna try it again. That'll work.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Works. Hi.
Wonderful. Hi.
Let me turn you up a little bit. Okay. Where do you live, Dana?
I live in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, that's right. Minnesota. That's very cold. You're used to it though.
It has a variety of seasons, that's for sure.
Yeah. Right. So let's see. So now, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I was very intrigued. Last week's conversation was I was very into it. I remember very into it.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of things you say I just resonate with, although a lot of the terminology I found is just different terminology and like a similar idea and concept.
Yeah.
When we discovered you on here, and I'm just interested in, like, I see myself as someone who will learn, and I've been very into psychology since I was a young adult. And as a child, I found myself like kind of doing these things naturally, like looking at people and why do they do this and why do I respond this way, and
right.
Finding your channel with this type of terminology is very fascinating to me. I don't ever claim to be an expert in anything, because I've learned in my training that once you admit you're an expert is the minute you are not an expert.
We're just students, all of us. Yeah,
exactly. I didn't have anything, I guess, specifically in mind to talk about exactly, but it's just kind of nice to know, like, finding community.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let's talk about, because the theme of the show is beginning the inner alchemy path, and you gave us a little background there, but so let's maybe talk about what are you, because I'm over here talking about shadow work all the time. So how are you, like, I kind of gave you all kind of a framework, but how do you think about doing shadow work, and what have you been doing, and what do you think that you need to work with, and kind of how would you talk about that from a personal standpoint?
Yeah, so I guess I have always tried to find inner peace and like inner strength. And I've observed in others what is happening, like outward behavior that is like their shadow projecting in their behavior, like with my family. Yeah. And I started as a kid writing poetry, like writing observational type poetry and journaling. Yeah. And then like sharing it with people in the family who were not that person, to try to like understand, or just understand on a deeper level. And at that age too, I was also into physical movement with a dance, and I was into playing music. So I would think of a feeling of a shadow aspect, and I would draw it, or I would dance with those in mind. Wow. So I believe in, yeah.
Right. It was true. You've been doing shadow work since you're a little tiny kid.
Yeah, I really have. I've been through all the four corners at one point in time in my life. Right now, they're not all in sync, but I'm still working on it. I'm still a student. Right.
So what are you working on now?
Well, right now, my work reflects what I believe in this type of work, also because I'm a certified peer support specialist with hopes of becoming a mental health practitioner.
So can you explain what that is, peer support specialist?
Yes. A peer support specialist is somebody who has lived experience with mental illness and mental health.
Right. Okay, I understand what it is. I forgot what peer support is, but I have a friend. Okay, it's coming back. No, I understand what it is. Right, you have your own personal experience so that you can relate to these other folks who are patients. Yes.
Who have also had those experiences, or are currently going through some of the traumas with that involved.
Yeah. So then, okay. So what do you? So keep going. So you're saying what are you working with right now?
Yeah. So what I'm working with right now is I do a lot of like grounding stuff. Literally this time of year in Minnesota, it's perfect to go outside, sit in a chair barefooted with your feet on the ground. Yeah. And what I'll do then is I'll close my eyes and just listen and sit. Right. For like as long as I feel, to connect with like what I call source or spirit or whatever, and just listen. Yeah. And that's one of the practices I like to do. If it's too cold, like to go outside in the winter, I'll just stand in the dark room and just like put my body against the wall and just like have my palms open and just kind of meditate and listen and see what I can see in the darkness. That like literally trying to confront the shadow, like, why am I feeling this way? What is going on in me right now? And then I visualize trying to like break it down.
Oh, I'm writing this down. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I like that. That's really good. I've not. Yeah, that's really good actually. Okay, so that's great. Now, what are you doing? cognitively, like I was talking about earlier, just like the most basic kind of shadow work where you basically just admit anything that is yucky into consciousness.
Yeah.
What about that? How's that going?
Yes. Well, I've definitely what I call venting in my journals. Like I'll write down, like a lot of it is working on like self-acceptance and self-love. So like I'll write down, I've had the worst self-talk in my head. So I will literally journal every word that is gross about myself. Just let it all out. Journal it. And then I'll just either cross it out or like, I don't ever like to throw stuff away really, but I'll just turn the page.
Right.
And like a lot of times in my journal, if I've had several days of dumping on myself, I'll just literally turn the page and write, turn the page. Here I go, turn the page.
Right.
So, and like talking about stuff, I don't have a therapist right now. I have had ones in the past, but I haven't always found ones that were in sync with me. But support groups have been huge.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, support groups. Those are... I'm writing down all your suggestions that I don't already have in my own list or don't already use myself, because you just got to keep this, you got to keep growing. So the support groups, the thing about the support groups is like you can find, I don't know, I've people will tell me, people who are looking for support groups and stuff, I've kind of heard this, and then my own experience is that a lot of support groups, like if you take kind of like AA type anonymous groups or other support groups, it's very easy for support groups to for people to kind of identify with their illnesses, identify with their problems. And then, like, it's like, I think AA is really, really good in general, but, and it's just a lifesaver for a lot of people. So I hesitate to want to trash it, but there is this whole kind of built-in culture where it's like, I'm always an alcoholic, I'm always an addict, I'm always going to be that way, and best I can do is one day at a time, but at least I have my support group. And it's kind of like there's a part of it that's like, yeah, well, it's kind of identifying with victimhood in a way. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you hear me?
Oh, you're breaking up.
Oh, I'm breaking up. Yeah.
Now it's better.
Did you hear me before? What I was saying about AA and how people kind of identify with their predicament and they kind of just stay there?
Yeah, I heard you kind of say like it kind of like identify like with as a being a victim in a way.
Yeah, and, I don't like to use that word, but I'm trying to think of something better to use. But identifying with your shadow predicament, whatever it is, and then just kind of wallowing in it. And as long as you have support, then and you're not alone, then that's good enough. Whereas this other practice is like, we're not trying to say that we're going to completely heal ourselves in one lifetime. We're not even saying that, but we are saying that it's up to us to develop.
Yeah,
and not stay still, not stay in the place where we're at.
Exactly. Other support groups, I have never been involved with AA.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
But I've done support groups like NAMI and AMI.
Okay.
And they a lot of their principles of their support groups, and even the one I attend through I work with Wellness in the Woods. We're a Minnesota-based nonprofit, and we have virtual peer support groups during the day. Yeah, but some of their principles of their support groups and some of the principles of NAMI, like again, it stands for National Alliance of Mental Illness, or NAMI. But we do a lot of our principles are like, we are here to support, not fix.
Right.
And we always hold, we know we embrace humor is helpful, and we will never give up hope. And a lot of the other groups too, they'll say like, just because we've been labeled with this diagnosis, we do not identify with it.
Oh, good.
It is medical illness and is not something that we are. We are not this illness.
Right.
So
Good.
we are not sort of.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, but that is, it is a dangerous, or not, we have to bring caution into that, or consciousness into this tendency, because the generally most people who are wounded will not really go to the nth degree to heal themselves. So they will go to the next, to one step down from that. And they'll say, okay, well, I will do some things to heal myself, and at least I have community. But they won't go to the next level. And if you're an individual I call alchemist, if you're one of those people, then you're basically going all the way. And groups are like this. Groups have their own consciousness. And so they will try to hold you at their level of group consciousness. This is one of the negative things about all groups, whether it's an employer, whether it's a church, a family, a culture of a nation. They have their average level of consciousness, and if you identify with the group, then it will hold you at that level. And as soon as you start to try to ascend out of that level, and then try to bring other people with you, collectively, they will collectively just pull you back down or kick you out. It's kind of group, it's group consciousness. It's very well established. And so you have to, this is why, but you need people. You can't do the work alone. We all need people. We need each other. So on one hand, you need groups, you need community, you need relationship. But on the other hand, you can't fully evolve in any one particular group. You may have to go from group to group or relationship to relationship over time. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
just
I agree. I agree. And there's different groups within my organization that meet. Like there's a goal setting group on one night. There's a grief group on one night. There's a all recovery meeting on one night. And you know what? From when I first started utilizing their service, I have ascended out of it for the most part. I only check in on certain ones, not as often, because I'm actually out doing the work with people. Like I see people face to face and support them. And like the one way I'm kind of stuck is like when I'm at home in my own space, I haven't been taking as much time to sit in the stillness with the quiet.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to be looking more often, because I do live alone too. So like, I need to be okay with not listening to music or not listening to a YouTube for
That's hey, that's a good point. I'm going to write that down, and I'm always telling myself that too. And well, but I naturally do that, Dana. I naturally will be listening to some YouTube thing or whatever it is, or I'm working with other people's material, audio engineer or whatever it is I'm listening to or I have going. And then I'll just be like, okay, I'll do that for a couple of hours. And then I'll be like, okay, turn it off. Got to have silence for a while. And then I'll just have silence for a while. And then I'll go back to it. And then I'll turn it off after a while. So I kind of naturally have a limiter where I just don't allow myself to get too full of external input. What else?
Yeah, I was thinking earlier when you were speaking. Have you heard of so it's like, hold on, what's the word? Geometry. It's sacred geometry, right? You've heard of that, I suppose.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And sacred geometry, and there's sacred geometry movements you can do. It's like kind of like yoga, but different.
Oh,
and
good.
It's just really interesting. I've because as part of my working on my shadow with my body, it's been a huge thing up and down my whole life, my weight and everything.
Yeah.
But has to do with a lot of things. But this is one I'm always working on. But like when I came to do a little tiny bit of research about the sacred geometry and the movements that go with that, that's kind of the time when I went into the dark room and just stood there and did those movements. And it was a total mind, body, physical, spiritual experience. It was really quite cool.
Wow. I'm going to write that down too, the sacred geometry yoga movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's also, we have to bring this up, there is also the tendency for people who are seekers and self-healers to be always looking for the next cool thing to be doing, right? Therapeutic practice. Yeah. Right? And so so we have to be careful with that, because there's always so Dana, I think I've talked about the emotional processing practice, and I want to say it what it is again to you right now. So you're having your life, and then something happens at work or happens with a boyfriend, girlfriend, something, and you get triggered somehow, right? You find yourself in some kind of a triggered situation by yourself or with somebody else, and a complex is running, a part is acting out, however you want to put it, and or shadow material has been touched upon, however you want to put it, and now we're feeling emotion. And in this practice, what you do is at the first available moment, whether right there or maybe later, if it's like happened at work, you're gonna have to do this later and kind of have to recall the situation. But as soon as you can, you go sit down with the emotion and you just sit with it and you breathe it through it, and you allow the mind to keep doing what it's doing, but you basically tell your body to go ahead and allow the entirety of the emotion to come up. So commonly it's like the bipolar circuit of anger, and then the anger will be the masculine emotion, and then there will be a feminine emotion behind it, or it could be the feminine one on top and the masculine one on bottom, but they come together. So you'll have anger, and then you'll have grief, or you'll have shame, or you'll have fear or guilt on the other side of it. And you just sit there with it, and you breathe through it, and you say, I know what's down there, I know what needs to come up, and you allow all of that material to come up into your body. If it's fear, you'll feel it in your gut. You know, if it's shame, you'll just start crying. I mean, if it's grief, you'll start crying. Whatever feeling it is, you allow yourself to process the emotion completely, and you just sit with it until the whole thing breaks through. It usually will end with crying, even if it starts with anger. And so you just allow the whole thing to kind of process through your body, through your state. And you don't get up and you don't distract, you don't write anything down, you just allow the emotion to move. And you do this right when you're triggered. So you're right on top of the volcano at that point, and then you just allow it to move through you. And that, I think, is one of the most important therapeutic shadow work practices that I know of. And it comes from John Ruskin. His book is called Emotional Clearing. He does it in meditation. He's a yoga guy, and he does it while you're meditating. But if you're not a big meditator or whatever, me and Melissa, we did this when you're triggered, just in life. You don't need to do it in meditation. Just when you're triggered, you do this. But that I wanted to say again what that is, so that you'll have that practice. What do you think?
What was that last part? You said you wanted to see about that's how you guys did it, and how have I done that? Or
No, I just wanted to tell you that. I don't need to know if you did it or not. I just wanted to put that on your plate, and so that you have that. And maybe you've already been doing something kind of like that. You know, I just wanted to put that on the table.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. So I think you'll get some really good mileage out of that. And do you have either of our books?
I downloaded Shadow Tech Alchemy.
Transforming Darkness.
Sorry,
Yeah, that one, right? The black cover or whatever.
Yeah, I downloaded it, and I was starting to listen to you doing the reading of it.
Oh yeah, okay. It's I don't know. It's in the Shadow Work Practices chapter. Towards the end of the book, there's Shadow Work Practices, and one of them in there is the emotional processing. So I just wanted to tell you that so that you could go read that. It's like, a few paragraphs or whatever it is, but you can go have that and read that so that you can go back to that and you can start practicing that and let me know what that does for you. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I do feel like I've definitely been kind of an empath and an emotional person.
Yes.
And I think I've gotten a lot better with things, but there have been times when I've had to, like, in a professional setting, look away, or, the tears have come.
Yeah.
In the time I wish they had not. So, yeah.
Yeah. So do you find it kind of difficult to cry usually?
No, I find it, I used to be very tearful, and it depends on different times and stages in my life. I've felt more sensitive.
Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah. In this practice, we're definitely encouraging crying. It's kind of like really what we're trying to get to, really, is whether it's anger or grief or shame or whatever it is, we're trying to get to crying. And then basically this is because, a lot of these emotions are cut off by parents that say don't cry, or try to distract you, or put you in front of a TV or do something to try to get you to stop your natural process when you're a child. And so we kind of get physiologically shut down, and men and women, especially men, but women too. And so we never really learned to, at the physiological, level, how to actually process the complete wave of an emotion. It gets shut down before the complete wave is complete, because it takes a long time for the wave to complete. It might take 5 minutes, but it might take an hour. And so with this, you could call it reparenting or inner child work. You could call it that too. But with this emotional processing, where we're saying every time I'm triggered over something, I'm going to go sit down with it and then invite the emotion that's below that to come up and move through my body. This is just a lifelong practice. And I mean, I don't do it as much as I used to, because we were in a point, me and Melissa, we were doing this a whole lot in the first several years we were together, and we did, a whole lot of this stuff. Now I got a chance to do all this crying after she passed away, and I had to process all this grief. So I've been crying like every day for the last, 18 months or whatever, 17 months it's been. So, so I've, kind of reacquainted myself with the process, but, that's a big one though. I just think that's really big, and it's hard for people to kind of get into that, even though it's so simple. But once you get going with it, and you'll find that it gives you a lot of relief, and you get a lot of movement out of it. I mean, when we first started doing it, we would get psychic movement that was very kind of transcendental and metaphysical, really. Like feeling like you're outside of your head a little bit, or just getting some kind of psychic kind of symptoms that were odd, showing you that there's neurochemical changes going on. So anyway, that's a good one.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I've had to work on honing in my emotions. And because I was so introverted my whole life as the emotions, which is why society said to me, "You're bipolar," and the doctors and whatever. But because I would find myself wanting to stand up for what's right, like in my family, and then people just telling me to shush, be quiet, or I'm not allowed to be angry, or I'm not allowed to stand up for that, and I would run upstairs crying, and that happened all the time. So, so I've learned as an adult to kind of do that work, to kind of learn how to do it in my role, Yeah. I can see how a lot of people will have trouble, letting it out. But I've had to learn how to rein it in and use it in productive ways. I like to use the word transmute, you say upweeding them and then you would burn them. But I like to kind of uproot them and turn them into fuel, use the flames from burning that thing to fuel something else, yes, that's why I said it's so interesting when I came across your podcast, because a lot of the things you talk about have the same symbolism, the same metaphors as other things. Like I did a lot of tarot. I watched, like, been into tarot and a lot of listening to tarot readings on YouTube for several years, and coming across you almost feels like another way to explore and get connected with community with this type of work, spiritual, psychological.
Yeah, I mean, all the intuitive sciences, so to speak, all kind of run into each other and run over each other. And I've definitely experimented with tarot and dowsing and other, modalities like that. But yeah, because it's just this is all the territory of the psyche, right? And so we're just basically exploring the unconscious, the personal and collective unconscious, or however you want to put it, and the transcendent. We're exploring these domains with whatever tools that we want to explore with. But I kind of have fallen. It's like I've just been kind of directed through these. I've kind of like experimented with all these different modalities and everything, and I've kind of just fallen right into the Jungian thing, and then right from there right into the shadow thing. And it feels like, to me, it's kind of like this is kind of part of my job, is because it's so easy on the spiritual path with all the different directions and rabbit holes and things that you can go into. It's very, very easy to stay distracted or to get busy with all kinds of other things that keep you off the shadow. It's like somebody has to be there. There have to be some of us. There's not hardly that many people like me, or like me and Melissa, who will do this and are just like, come back to the shadow, come back to the shadow. This is the prima materia. You have to come back to the shadow. Stop avoiding it. Come back, come back, come back. And so that's kind of feel like that's what my job is. And so I kind of don't, these days, I don't really spread myself too thin anymore, although I have experimented with all kinds of other things, and I've done all kinds of psychedelics and, done all kinds of stuff over the years. This is kind of like where I'm sitting right now, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, and then ultimately what I want to happen is, and this is kind of why I'm doing these public workshops now, is ultimately I want other people to basically take this up, kind of figure out, basically practice all the stuff that I've been doing, whether from their own direction. They can either train with me or just talk to me, whatever, do their own thing, whatever, but come into this and then become really competent in this and be able to do the shadow work, teach the shadow work, talk about the shadow work, put it into the greater context of the alchemical practice, and then go out in the world. And I'm basically hoping to basically find other missionaries.
Yeah, that's
right.
Beautiful.
So that because one person. I mean, Robert Moore was really big on the shadow, and he's dead now. And it's like I look out there, and there's almost no one else out there. There's people talking about shadow work, but there's very few like real masters who have really stayed with that thing for decades, who really can kind of give you the juice. Not even saying I'm there yet, but that's my job, kind of. And then so when I'm after that, then yeah, I want other people to pick it up from there. Go ahead.
Absolutely. That is great. Like finding others that are so dedicated, and like I just keep thinking of this line of a song when you say it, come back to the shadow, come back to the shadow.
Yeah.
There's a song she quotes, I'm friends with the monsters under my bed, get along with the voices inside of my head. Those could be construed as a shadow.
Yes.
Like you have to know it, knowing your own faults. That's your shadow and how to work with them.
That's right.
And I love this. And I wanted to say hi quick. Colin, there's a friend of mine in the chat, Bridge Sky. She's my friend, and she came to listen tonight because I recommended it, and I'm just glad to see her in the chat.
Oh, okay. What's her name?
Bridge.
That's her. Oh, that's her name, Bridge?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Bridge. She says, embrace and value the emotions and or maybe honor the human parts of self. Absolutely. That's exactly what we're doing. She's talking IFS language there. And who's on the phone? Theo says Dana is on the phone. Our friend Dana, who's been on the chat or she's been listening to our show for, I don't know, how long you've been hanging out? Maybe like a month or 6 weeks or something?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Yeah. Okay, great. So, yeah. So, what else was I going to say to you? Well, let's see. What time is it? Oh, we're getting we're getting close to the end here, but, let's do a shout out to if anybody is in the chat that wants us to talk about something, wants to bring something up, wants to have something. Yep. Theo says hi. Theo, do you know Theo? Theo's a badass. He's another.
No, well, hello, Theo. I know you now.
He's a badass alchemist. Also, in training like all of us, and dedicated person. He's one of these kind
Can I
of
ask you a quick question, Colin? Sorry.
You can ask me anything you want, Dana. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Did you say earlier something about you said you prayed with people? Because that sounds beautiful.
Prayed?
Yeah.
I have not been praying with people. No.
Oh, I thought I heard you say that. That's weird. Maybe I have a bad connection. I hope you guys can hear me okay. But
well, maybe I need to do that.
As somebody who is a quote-unquote recovering Catholic, I found my way of praying almost just like saying mantras out loud or saying affirmations out loud. And I don't pray to anything in particular. I say, universe, God, spirit, higher self, guardian angels, ancestors, Mother Gaia.
Yeah.
I give it all up to all of those. And I'll just say, I came across this Hawaiian prayer a couple of years ago. It's called Hana Ohanahan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's saying, you've heard of that. Yeah, so just say, thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And then I elaborate.
It's good.
But I haven't been doing it a lot lately with that. And praying with people, just speaking out loud the obvious, what they know this is the problem, this is what they want to work on, granted the things they need to work through this and transmute it. But yeah, I thought you said pray, and that was so weird. I don't know how I would say that.
I do pray. I pray before I pray at breakfast and dinner.
Okay.
So I do pray twice a day, and I change the prayer a little bit and stuff. But plus then I pray whenever else I want to. So I definitely do pray, but I haven't been praying with people. But that is, Melissa used to always do our dinner prayer. And so I've had to kind of take that over, and I kind of incorporate some of her language that she used to use. And so, yeah, so that's good. Okay, let's see what else Theo's saying in here. Love, blessings, health, wholeness, awareness, wellness, and wealth. Okay, that's great, Theo. All right, well, I don't know. It sounds like Theo came in a little bit late. You may have to replay this because this show was, we've done this before, Theo, what do you do when you start on this path? But that's kind of what this was. And I kind of gave everybody kind of a laundry list of things to kind of get you going down the rabbit hole. And there's a link to a reading and video list that I'm building in the YouTube description. So maybe it's good to go back and listen to this later. What else, Dana? Is there anything else before we go?
I don't know. I just wanted to touch on about the 4 quadrants. You said social, societal stuff.
The 4 quadrants. You like that, huh?
Yeah.
Most people stay away from that.
It gives me mostly to focus. I was just thinking about I found a lot of people that I speak to, they get so wrapped up in the narrative of the political, and I just hope, my hope for people is that they can disconnect from that and look inward.
Yeah. It's a big distraction. I mean, just one thing to look at it and have a little dose of it, but that can't be your life.
Yeah. But like that social aspect that I spoke about earlier with my support groups, that is more of a better filter for me, and it's important. That's the social support groups are kind of like my whole socialization.
Yes.
So I feel like as a peer specialist, this I could almost be called an intellectual alchemist. I kind of would like to say, but it's just it's the social part. I'm so blessed that you brought me on tonight because to me it feels like a little social interaction, and I'm very grateful for that.
Oh yeah. Well, we can keep doing it. I've been talking about this. I found this place in Austin called Casa de Luz, House of Light, and it's like a nonprofit. It's a restaurant, actually. It's a macrobiotic vegan restaurant, and the guy that is the curator of it has had this place for 40-something years, and it's a whole community of people who are engaged in different kinds of therapeutic practices and stuff. And he has this thing called the Thought House, where people just show up and drink tea and have conversations. And it's just like, this place is a gold mine, and I just like can't, I've been back in Austin for over 5 years, and we didn't know about it. I didn't find it until after Melissa was gone, and so I go over there on the weekends, and it's tremendous. It's just tremendous. I'm doing workshops over there now, and it's just a tremendous community. It's just amazing, and not every city or town has anything like that. And so, but whatever you can find in your community, and absolutely, when you're talking about community and stuff, and how much better it is because when Melissa was here, we were very self-contained in our own alchemical vessel, so to speak. We could entertain ourselves. We were making incredible progress. We're both artists, musicians. We're making music together, performing together, all that. There wasn't a whole lot of need to be that social. And so we were really kind of in our own container. And then when she passed, now it's like, okay, I have to become social. And so I'm in Austin now. I'm like, where is the community? Because I kind of go over most people's heads. So I'm like, but I found this place, like a miracle. And so now I'm like, okay. And I noticed how I instantly stopped using Facebook and social media, like 80% of, maybe, I don't know what percentage. I was never really on it that much, but a huge amount of that just went away because now I have my local community. You know what I mean? So you can see how the social media is kind of a substitute. It's a pseudo community, and we're trying to get community with each other. But there is the advantage of you're able to find people who have similar interests wherever they are in the world. And it's like, for example, on this, Theo's in Thailand. And so, it's great that you can find people online who have these esoteric interests, because you may not find them in your local town. But at the same time, if you can find even just a few people locally, that is way better than just trying to scrape the internet to try to find some kind of pseudo community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. At least not for now.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Have a great night, and we'll be talking.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on, Colin.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. That's great. Right. So, and we can do that. We have everybody, I don't know if everybody knows, but if anybody has an interest in calling in on one of the other shows, the way I usually do that is do some kind of a lecture for the first hour, or hour and 20 minutes or hour and a half, and then we'll do a conversation with somebody towards the end of the show. And Theo's called in before, Dana's called in now, and is anybody else that's Carlos has called in. There's been a few other people that have called in, and so So if anybody feels like this is something they want to do and talk about their process and share their own personal experiences and techniques and stuff, just let me know. And the way to do that is just look in the YouTube description and you'll see the instructions for how that's done. I have a second phone here with a second number, and you can WhatsApp me through that phone. Or if you're in the U.S., you can call this my Google Voice number, and then I'll put you in. So anyway, everybody, thank you for hanging out. As usual, it's amazing. I love you all. This show would not be, it's just like, we don't have a huge crowd here, but we have a good crowd, and everybody's on the path, and people are doing the work, and we're all benefiting from it. And so that's why I do it. I do it for you guys. So so that's why I always encourage you to use the chat, send me messages, whatever it is. We'll talk about the subjects that you want to talk about. You can always comment on the YouTube videos, and I'll hear like this video was basically a woman named Jessica said, I was looking for somebody that could kind of help me on my alchemy journey, getting started doing all this work. So I said, okay, that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. Now, I don't think she's on here tonight. I'll go back to the comment and I'll post the link so that she can see this. But I used the input from the community to figure out what the show should be about. And so if anybody wants to, once this is over, you can go back and listen from the beginning, and there it is. And I will see you all next Tuesday. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.